Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something fascinating, a kind of spiritual puzzle from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're looking at section 3.33.21, and it presents this deep contradiction. How can someone who's supposed to have perfect knowledge, whose heart is described as like cleansed of all dirt, still be completely floored by grief?
Exactly. It's the story of Devahuti. She's the mother of Kapila, who, the texts identify as an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So she gets this direct, perfect wisdom about life, death, the soul, everything from Kapila himself. But then when he leaves, the way her grief is described, it's just raw. It really makes you stop and think.
Yeah, it's not just, oh, she was sad. The text compares her to a cow who's lost her calf. I mean, that's such a primal image, crying day and night, real anguish. She even says to her friends something like, please bring my son back so I can live, otherwise I'll die.
That line, otherwise I shall die, it hits hard, doesn't it? Because it seems to fly in the face of everything she just learned, about the eternal soul, the temporary body. If she knew all that, why this intense, almost material-sounding attachment? But what this deep dive shows is that it wasn't a failure. It wasn't that her knowledge wasn't working. It was actually a different kind of energy altogether. It's this principle, they call it purified attachment.
Okay, purified attachment. Let's unpack that.
Right.
Because that's the core, right? The feelings sounds the same, that intense, visceral, cow and calf bond.
Yeah.
So how does just changing the object make it pure? Wouldn't that level of intensity, no matter who it's for, still keep you stuck in grief?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the key difference lies exactly there, in the object. See, attachment to a material thing, a son who is mortal, a house, fame, whatever, that attachment, the texts say, it sort of binds you. It forces you to stay in the material cycle trying to get it back or repeat the experience. It creates obligation, illusion.
Right, but for Devahuti, the object wasn't just any son. It was Kapila, the Supreme Lord himself.
Precisely. And when that exact same intensity, that same powerful emotion is directed towards the Supreme Lord, the whole nature of the emotion transforms. The texts state it clearly. It's purified because the object is the Supreme Lord. And that changes the outcome completely. So instead of trapping her in the material world, this spiritualized love became the very fuel, the intense focus she needed to actually transcend, to reach the spiritual world and be with the Lord eternally. Her feeling of separation from Kapila, that deep longing, it wasn't a problem. It was the catalyst. It's what enabled her to finally detach from her, incredibly luxurious home and focus entirely.
That's like flipping the script on the emotion itself, using its power for liberation instead of bondage, like a kind of spiritual aikido. And you mentioned her son. There's some interesting cultural context too, right? Her husband, Kadama Muni, he'd left years earlier to become a renunciate, but that didn't seem to cause this level of grief. It was Kapila leaving.
Yeah, that's significant. It ties into this old Vedic concept, Admaiva Putra Jayate, basically the idea that the son represents the husband. So in that cultural framework, a woman with a grown son wasn't really considered widowed in the same way. Her husband's line, his presence, continued.
Ah, okay. So her identity and security weren't tied solely to Kadama being there.
Right. So the sources emphasize her grief wasn't about losing her husband again or her status or anything like that. It was purely, as they put it, her sincere love for the personality of Godhead who had just physically departed, that specific spiritual connection. And that love, that intense yearning, that's what kicked off her final phase of realization.
Okay, so from that incredibly personal, intense bond, she starts to contemplate the bigger picture, right? Who Kapila really is. And this brings us to that second major theme, this mind-bending paradox of the infinite becoming, intimate. She starts marveling.
Yeah, she reflects on the sheer inconceivability of it all. We usually think of the Supreme Lord in, cosmic terms. Immense power. And Kapila is that. He's the source of everything, countless universes. He's the origin of Brahma. Brahma, who's called Aja, the unborn, because he just appears on that lotus from the Lord's navel. And even Brahma, this incredibly powerful being, has to meditate for ages just to get a proper glimpse of the Lord.
That's infinity on a scale we can barely grasp. So vast. But the paradox she sees is that this same ultimate cosmic controller chose to become small, vulnerable, finite in a way.
Exactly that. This being who holds all of reality together decided to be born from her body as a tiny baby, totally dependent on her, needing her for food, for cleaning, for protection, like any human baby. And she finds this act, this coming close, this intimacy, more amazing, more wonderful than his cosmic power, more amazing than him floating on a banyan leaf during the cosmic flood or creating universes. It's the closeness that blows her mind.
And the texts use that term, profound condescension, which today condescension sounds really negative, like looking down on someone. What's the actual theological meaning here? It's clearly not meant negatively.
No, not at all. It's actually the highest expression of love in this context. Theologically, divine condescension means the infinite making itself accessible, radically accessible. It's about voluntarily lowering oneself, giving up limitless power and independence, not out of a sense of superiority, but purely out of love, out of a desire for a real relationship, for intimacy with the finite soul.
Wow, so the ultimate power isn't just controlling galaxies. It's the power to choose vulnerability, to connect.
Precisely. It shows that the divine personality values that relationship, that close, loving exchange, maybe even more than just maintaining cosmic order from afar. The Vahudi gets it. She realizes the greatest miracle wasn't his power over creation, but his willingness to enter into it, personally,
Right.
with her.
That understanding of divine accessibility, it flows so naturally into the next big theme from her prayers, doesn't it? This really radical idea about who actually qualifies for spiritual life,
Yeah.
redefining merit itself.
Oh, absolutely. This is probably one of the most revolutionary statements in the whole text, especially given the times. It just shatters the social norms. Devahudi basically says external status, birth, ritual purity. None of that is the real qualification. She makes this incredible statement. Even someone born in a family of dog-eaters, that's the Chandala or Shvapaka, considered the absolute bottom rung socially, totally barred from Vedic rites. Even such a person immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if they just once utter the holy name of the Supreme Lord.
Wow. Okay, that just blows up the whole birthright system. But hang on, is it really that simple? Just say the name like a magic word and boom, you're qualified. Does it mean you can just skip all the discipline, the austerities?
Right, that's the common question, and it's easy to misunderstand it that way. But the commentaries clarify this point really carefully. They explain that sincerely uttering the holy name isn't the start of purification, it's the proof that purification has already happened. The idea is, for someone to chant sincerely, without offense, they must have already, maybe in past lives, or just through immense grace, already performed austerities, sacrifices, developed good qualities. The chanting is the symptom, the evidence of a deep internal transformation that's already complete.
Ah, I see. So it's not a shortcut. It's a signpost. It's saying the inner state sincerity, devotion, is the actual currency,
Right.
not your family name or social standing. That really does make genuine spiritual connection universally available, doesn't it?
It completely democratizes it. Your heart is what matters, your consciousness. Which leads us perfectly into the fourth theme, Devahudi's own path. How she actually lived this. She becomes this amazing model for practical mysticism. She achieves the highest liberation, Jivan Mukti liberation, while still living, but she does it,
Yeah.
well, at home.
Yeah, this is the part that feels so relevant now. Because most people listening aren't about to, leave everything and go live in a cave. My picture of a liberated saint is usually someone in rags, totally renounced.
Mm-hmm.
But Devahudi stayed in this palace, right? It was incredibly opulent.
Unbelievably opulent, built by her husband Kardama's mystic powers, marble walls, jewels everywhere. The texts say even the gods were envious of it. And yet that's where she reached the pinnacle of spiritual realization, in the midst of maximum material luxury.
How do you practice intense spiritual discipline surrounded by that? Wouldn't the temptation, the distraction be overwhelming?
She did practice austerities, serious ones, bathing 3 times a day, wearing simple clothes, even in the palace, becoming physically thin from her focus. But the key wasn't about fighting the externals, trying to get rid of the palace, it was her internal focus. She was constantly, intensely meditating on Kapiya, not just as her son, but as the Supreme Lord, focusing on his Vitnu form, his smile. This is where that principle of Yukta Vairagya comes into play.
Yukta Vairagya. Okay, that translates as regulated renunciation or connected detachment. Sounds important. How does that work?
It's a core principle explained by Rupa Goswami. The verse goes, Nirbanha Krishna Sambanti Yukta Vairagyam Uchyat. Essentially, the philosophy is nothing is inherently ours to renounce anyway. Everything already belongs to the Supreme, to Krishna. So the real renunciation, the yukta or appropriate kind, isn't about rejecting things. It's about using everything in connection with the Supreme. When even luxury or, like we discussed, intense emotion is used in service for a higher purpose, that becomes bhakti, devotion.
So she wasn't trying to scrub the palace clean or reject the wealth. She was using her intense feeling for Kapila, that purified attachment, as the engine for such deep internal focus that the palace just faded, became irrelevant.
Exactly. It lost its hold on her consciousness. She achieved samadhi, deep spiritual trance. Her inner absorption was so total that the texts say she eventually forgot her material body entirely. Like how you forget your dream body the moment you wake up, it just ceases to be real for you. She reached a state called Daivaguptam, where she was directly under the Lord's protection. He personally handled her needs until she fully transcended.
That's incredible. And her final act, her body itself transforms.
Yes. Upon her final liberation, her physical form transformed into a sacred river named Siddhapada, which means something like the path of perfection. So she left behind this purifying legacy, literally embedded in the earth. Her whole journey is just this amazing testament to transformation.
It really is. It kind of maps onto that idea of fulfillment, doesn't it? Like the hard work was her intense meditation and austerity. The focused skill was purifying that powerful attachment. And the meaningful contribution, the fulfillment, was achieving the ultimate goal association with the Supreme. It shows that consciousness really is king over circumstance.
Absolutely. It's all about the inner landscape.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the four big takeaways from Devahuti's story we've explored today. First, this idea of universal qualification. Spiritual life, liberation. It's open to anyone based on sincerity, not birth or status.
Second, the power of internal practice over external circumstance. You can achieve the highest state right where you are. Liberation at home is possible because it's about transforming consciousness.
Third, that amazing divine paradox. True divine greatness isn't just about cosmic power. It includes this incredible capacity for personal intimacy, for vulnerability, that profound condescension driven by love.
And fourth, and maybe the most challenging for us day to day, is purified attachment. Those really strong emotions, even grief, aren't necessarily obstacles. They're powerful energies that can be purified and redirected towards the highest goal, becoming fuel for the journey, not chains.
It's just such a profound message. Devahuti shows that even the emotion we fear most, maybe grief, loss, can become the very vehicle for freedom. But only if its focus shifts from the temporary, the material, to the eternal, the spiritual. Which really leaves us all with something to think about, doesn't it? That final provocative thought for you listening. Where are your deepest attachments currently placed? And thinking about Devahuti's journey, could shifting that focus even a little change how you think about finding real, lasting satisfaction?